Is this the worst Transformers toy of all time? Let's discover together. So this, my friends, is the Transformers Titanium Series diecast Cybertron Hero G.I. Joe Megatron. Yes, this is technically a G.I. Joe crossover toy. And honestly, looking at it, it doesn't look too bad. Like, looks-wise. But we'll find out. We'll find out. Obviously, just like the Optimus Prime I reviewed, he is absolutely enthralled in a million twisty ties. So unboxing him is going to be a horrific experience. But we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Display stand included. Whoa! We can see some kind of cool box art of like his chest on the side. Yeah, it's a cool presentation, honestly. I like the little Transformers logo up top, kind of ingrained into the box. And around the back, we can see some pictures of the toy itself. That's its tank mode. That's what he looks like. There's Optimus I just did a review on if you want to check that out. And here is his bio, where it actually says that he is working with Cobra Commanders. So this is a G.I. Joe Megatron-esque kind of toy. So it's very interesting. If you want to give that a read, feel free, pause the video. I just find it so interesting that this was like the first G.I. Joe crossover. And whenever I do get around to making a crossover shelf, I will likely put him next to my other G.I. Joe crossover toys. So, first impressions, looking at it in the box. I noticed that his crotch is already split in half, so that's not a good sign. Basically, the story of this toy is that it shelf-warmed horribly back in the day. I don't know firsthand, but I just have heard the whispers and rumors about how horrifically this toy shelf-warmed. This was also featured on TJ Omega's good old Plastic Addict series back in the day as his crowned worst Transformer of all time. If you want to check out his Plastic Addict series, it's incredible. Genuinely some of my favorite videos I watched when I started getting into the hobby. And I'm very curious. I got this for $10, so the price of like a semi-expensive trip to Taco Bell. I have a burrito in the fridge I can reheat. Is it bad of me that I get an extra Taco Bell burrito just to reheat the next day? Is that a bad idea? I don't have the Taco Bell effect that some people do. Like, my stomach survives. Anyways, let's open this. We can see yet again, this is made by Micro Machines and Galoob, so this is not a Hasbro toy. Hasbro owns Micro Machines and Galoob, or at least, you know, they owned it. I think they still hold on to the rights, but, you know, it's not really its own section anymore of the company. But Galoob was its own division back in the day. So this was made by a completely different division of toy makers at Hasbro than the ones that normally make Transformers toys. There's the instructions. We might be needing those. Here's another one of these titanium pamphlets. I'm sure it's exactly the same as all of the rest. One interesting thing someone pointed out is that they made Starscream and Autobot. I didn't realize that when I looked at this the first time, but they made Starscream and Autobot. Okay, off to a great start. But yeah, same little cute little pamphlet. I miss pamphlets and toys. I really do. Alright, so I am going to begin cutting this guy out. We will unleash him from his horrific sarcophagus. And I'll get back with you. And I want to see if he makes it out in one piece. So I'll be right back. The amount of twisty ties they used to pack this thing was absolutely repulsive, but I kind of learned my lesson from opening the War Within Optimus, so the only part that was actually removed in the process was this arm right here. This just came out of this socket, because they had a twisty tie all the way around that like peg right there, and it was so annoying. So my first impression of immediately getting him out of the box, not very good. Not very good. So let's see if we can tab his waist together. Because like I said, it was untabbed right out of the box. And I figured I would try to tab it in on camera and see how solid it is once it's actually tabbed. So actually having the waist tabbed in, not nearly as floopy. I can tell he's still got a little bit of floof in his arms. Like you can see that arm is pretty loose. And I can tell like moving his hips like, oh, there we go. Untabbed. Nice. That didn't take long. So like when we move the legs forward, does that work on untabbing it? Like what happened there? Oh, just moving it at all. It's just going to untab. Nice. So when it comes to bad Transformers toys, I feel like what makes a toy bad is when it fails at accomplishing what it sets out to do. So someone may say, "Oh, this thing isn't bad." Someone may say, "Oh, this strong arm is bad." Because the transformation is literally, oh, boom, there we go. But this strong arm wasn't meant to be like its own actually good toy. It was meant to be a combiner limb. Like this is just a hand. That's what this RC is. Or not RC. Strong arm. It's a hand. It's an arm. That is the purpose of this toy. It's a part of a bigger toy. So, you know, you can't really look at stuff like that. Or, you know, something like this One Step Optimus. Like, oh, it's so bad, blah, blah, blah. It only moves at the shoulders. It's the whole purpose of this toy is that it transforms with the press of a button. And it accomplishes that. That was its purpose. The purpose of this toy was to be a die-cast articulated transformable action figure. And when it comes to the die-cast, he is loaded with it to a hindering extent. His shoulders are die-cast. His arms are die-cast. The majority of his legs are die-cast. I don't think he has any die-cast in his torso, though. So they put all of the die-cast in his limbs. And at his core, he is plastic. So they placed the die-cast in pretty horrific spots. Not very good. You can see like the weight of the shoulder, like it makes it droop. It's so droopy. And you already see with the legs. So what happened with the legs here? So his legs are made out of metal. Like these are die-cast legs. Oh my god. Anyways, I'll talk about that in a minute. So look at his legs here. So his legs are made out of die-cast metal. This is all die-cast metal. And it is literally hanging from a thread. Look at how thin that gray piece of plastic is. That's what it's hanging from. A literal thread. And the pegs are very tiny, very shallow little circle pegs. So you don't get a lot of friction with circle pegs like that. And like once you tab it together, like any outward momentum, and those are coming off. Oh, the leg just popped off. Nice. The leg just popped off its ball joint with no force whatsoever. So the legs don't really have any sort of outward motion, and they pop out with the tiniest little bit of pressure. So that's pretty bad. What else do we have going on? His arms. As we were messing with his legs, look at what has become of his arms. I did not do that. He is like totally moved his shoulder in front of him, and it's like he's scratching his armpit. That's what he's doing. Ugh. Oh, gross. So his legs seem like a pretty epic fail, and his arms seem very little better. So it seems like the articulation at the arms, like it has a swivel, and this one seems okay. This one seems okay, but this one's really loose. It's like this one has a little bit of a ratchet to it, if you can tell, and this one just doesn't. So that's pretty bad. You also do have like an upward joint, but if you move it upward, you can't really move it forward too well, and it doesn't move upward much on its own anyway. Then you have this transformation joint that just kind of flops around. I mean, as you saw, it just does that on its own. It doesn't really tab in. It just kind of rests downward. He has a ball-jointed elbow. They connected die-cast pieces with a ball-jointed elbow. But I'm not going to lie. Like, I've seen samples where the elbow is super loose. And over time, I'm sure this elbow is going to get super floppy. But it seems pretty okay so far. The range is very bad. The range is very bad, but at least it's moving. And then the wrists look like a ball joint, but they're just on a hinge. Isn't that funny? Like, it looks like a ball joint right there. It looks exactly like the kind of joint is that. So not only is that a hinge, but it's misleading, because I'm sure kids saw this and were like, oh, I can rotate the wrist just like I can rotate the elbow. No, it's going to break. It's just going to break if you try that. So his upper body articulation, you can see, is pretty wobbly. It seems like this joint up here, like this bicep slider, where it like slides in for transformation, that is very, very loose, because it's a plastic piece inside of like two die-cast wedges stuck together. Any waist articulation? No, none whatsoever. Let's move down to his leg articulation then. Let's see what he has going on down here at the legs. So he has ball joints at the hips, but obviously, as you saw, try to move them out whatsoever, and they just come out. His knees. Why does he even have knee articulation when that's it? That's all of the knee range. Insane. Absolutely insane. So he has no knees whatsoever, basically. You have the slightest little bit of subtle motion at the knees. And trying to move the legs, it gets floppy again. Absolutely ridiculous. And the feet, you expect him to stand on these tiny little plastic feet that move upward that will just totally collapse him. Oh, there we go. There's that again. As you can see, like, just handling this toy, it is flopping everywhere. It doesn't want to stay together. You just saw right there, he can stand, but oh, there goes his hips. Just by him standing, his hips just came undone. Oh, there we go. Any slightly forward tilt, and the feet are just going to collapse, and he's just going to fall down. So he won't even stand right. Ooh! Oh, no! Oh, my God, it got worse, guys. Not only is it hanging on by a thread, but it's not hanging on by a pin. It's hanging on by a C-clip! By a C-clip thread! No! Who designed this? Who designed this? No! Anyways, guys, let's look at the head. So the head sculpt, I actually think isn't too bad. It's not great, but it's not too bad. The face looks kind of odd, but it's not too bad. Can you rotate the head? Yes. At least we can move it. I wasn't even sure if we can move the head. But yeah, he does have the shoulder cannon, which is kind of nice because that kind of invokes like G2 Megatron. He has this little extra shoulder turret as well. Yeah, it's just a floppy mess. It's just so floppy, and it's way too heavy for its own good. And I don't feel like it accomplishes the goal of being a die-cast articulated action figure. Like, it doesn't, in my opinion, because the articulation is so poor that you can't really move it too well. And on top of that, what little articulation you do have will either structurally, inhibit the figure, or it's just absolutely nothing at all and just absolutely pathetic. So, with all of that, does it still function as a transforming toy? Can it still transform? Let's find out together. Let's see how this happens. So I'm going to assume it's going to be pretty easy. We'll probably collapse that in. Maybe the hands will go down. Let's see right here. Geez, I'm remembering so many little things from that TJ Omega video. So I'm going to assume maybe this piece folds all the way back. Let's rotate the head, though. Let's disguise the head. I feel like that's probably what you're supposed to do with that. Then the arms, I guess. Oh, do the hands just... Oh my gosh. Are we not even going to be able to rotate the turret at all? I don't think so. Probably not. Then again, I shouldn't be surprised. Does the turret tab together at all? It looks like it should. And then the hands are going to go into that little alcove. So there's the tank turret. Does that go in? That should go in better, right? Yeah, there we go. Doesn't feel very solid, though. Shocker, right? Shocker. Does not feel solid. All right, so his legs. I'm assuming they're just going to swing and just peg in. And that's the legs. Because it seems like they're just solid chunks of metal and there's nothing they can do, right? Like, what else can it do? So, let's... Ooh, oh, there goes that C-clip. Nice. Let's tab in the leg into the slot back there. Oh, there goes the C-clip again. Nice. It's not even staying together on me. I'm worried that C-clip's just going to stress and break, and his leg absolutely will never stay on. But we'll see. We'll see if that holds up. Is there anything I'm missing? I don't think so. I think it's just not cooperating at this point. All right. Knees. Let's straighten the knees because that's a big joint. It's going to totally inhibit everything. The hands, like, they go into these little alcoves, but I think this is it. This is our little tank. So, first impression, it's a block. This tank is just a block. It has a big old bumper in the front, which I'm pretty sure tanks aren't supposed to have bumpers. And also, one thing I haven't really addressed yet, the color scheme is pretty bad. Like, why does he have this, like, Megatron, whitish gray, and then he has, like, this really dark gray and this purple and this almost greenish gray? Like, it's such an odd color scheme. And for being teamed up with Cobra Commander, it almost looks more like a G.I. Joe color scheme. One more thing, too, that I forgot. He's got a couple Decepticon symbols on the sides. But then he also has 3 Autobot symbols on each side. Now, obviously, or it's only 2 on that side. Obviously, it's supposed to be tallies, like he's destroyed 5 Autobots. Why aren't they scratched out then? And why aren't they a lot smaller than the Decepticon symbol? Just looks so odd to me. And then it's got little headlights, and it's not too bad. Like, it does have the treads that are nice and coherent, but that's totally at the sacrifice of leg articulation. It has a little bit of silver right there that does not continue on the other part whatsoever. It's just so odd. And then obviously the turret doesn't move at all. You can move this up and down though. That moves up and down. And that moves side to side. So at least it has some play. Does it roll? It scoots because it's so heavy. This thing is so heavy. It does also come with a display base, obviously. It's just like all the other titaniums. You can just, put it on there. These are kind of whatever. But hey, it's the thing it includes. I had to mention it at some point. So as a transformer, I don't feel like it's too offensive. I don't feel super offended by the transformation. It's very easy. It's such a simple transformation. Left me very underwhelmed, but it wasn't, like, bad. It did have the leg constantly popping off on me, which was not fun, and it didn't want to tab in. So it fails as a transformer in some aspects, but we got there. It doesn't have, like, extra pieces that are just absolutely not fitting in together. It's, not a very attractive tank, but it is a tank. At least it looks like a tank. It's still not very good, though. So, I think we've pretty much reached the point where I can ask the question, is this the worst Transformers toy of all time? Is it? I'm thinking hard. Is this the worst Transformers toy of all time? In my personal collection, I don't know, man. It's very incompetent. The engineering on this is very incompetent, and I feel like it really fails on a lot of things it's trying to do. The die cast is inconsistent and horribly placed. The articulation is a joke. The durability is a joke. It is very laughably bad in a lot of ways, but I don't feel like it's offensively so. Like, it's almost just, it goes past the level of being offensive, and it's comedic. This is comedically bad. This is bad comedy. I personally still, after opening this guy, after playing with it, I feel like the nature and medium of this toy, it being in the Titanium series and designed by a company that honestly didn't really know better in a lot of ways, kind of gives it some leeway, but also this thing should probably have never been released. I still think this is not the worst Transformers toy. I don't think this is the worst one. Do you know which one I do think is the worst one? I couldn't find it. I don't know where it is. So, instead, I will leave it up to you. I want you to guess which Transformers toy I still think is worse than this. Because this is bad, right? This is very, very bad. But I feel like the other one was just so much worse. Like, this Megatron is unpleasant. This Megatron, the ball joint just came off of the shoulder as I was trying to transform it. Nice. This is not fun. This is unpleasant. This is a floppy, gloppy mess. But, like I said, it was designed by a totally different team. And I feel like the medium of the diecast and everything gave it limitations, and this designing team just didn't really understand what they were really doing in the first place. But the other toy, I feel like, especially given how the rest of the toy line had so many incredible figures, I am shocked at how a figure as terrible as it was able to pass and actually be released. So, I want you to guess in the comments, which one do you think is the worst? I've already reviewed it. It's on the channel. So you might be able to look through my videos and, might be able to figure it out. But I think this is definitely the king of the worst Transformers toys, but not necessarily the queen. I will leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this G.I. Joe Titanium Megatron, this goofball of a boy. Let's try to get him in a semi-decent pose to finish the video. Let's get him like, I am Megatron. Can we at least do something like that? I am Megatron. That's what you're going to get. That's it. That's all he can do. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, let me know what you think. Special shout out to channel members, as always. Thank you all so much for the continued support. Have a great one, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.